December 24th, 1968. The crew of Apollo 8 does a live broadcast from lunar orbit. Christian mothers are traumatized when the moon's boob falls out. Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And we have a very special episode for you this Christmas Eve day, if that's when you're listening to this.
Or if that's what you celebrate.
Yeah.
Might just be another bullshit day for you.
It's also first day of Hanukkah.
No?
No, that's... So...
If you're into that, yeah, light one of them candles, baby.
Light them up, burn them down. Hanukkah.
Yeah. Light them if you got them.
5006. I don't know what Jewish year it is.
Smoke them if you got them. Hanukkah 2016.
We have a fantastic show for you, and we have a hilarious comedian. One of my favorite up-and-comers to watch in Denver. Please welcome Matt Kobos to the show.
Oh, man, that was pretty sweet.
I don't know why I pointed at you. It's just a...
You're like,
I'm
go,
saying your
dude.
name. You don't need more of a cue than that. It's just like...
You don't know how dumb I am.
You're just drinking out of like a hamster bottle that you are forced to take liquid from.
Yeah. My girlfriend has to constantly tell me to eat.
Just like you get an alarm on your phone. Oh, I have to poop.
Yeah.
I have to Wikipedia what pooping is.
Yeah. It never works out well. Messy keyboard.
The Wikipedia article is strangely long, and by the time you're done, it's too late.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost it.
It's weird Inception poop reading material.
It'd be great if that was what Inception was.
Dude,
yeah, we got to get this guy to shit. We have to go into his dreams.
But we have to make him think it was his idea.
I just came up with this.
Yeah. Poopception.
They're just pooping upside down in a hallway.
That hallway shifts, so that's like not a good place.
Let's see how deep the butthole goes. Okay.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
Well, derailed almost immediately.
I guess we should say, for those of you who may have not listened before, on this here show, we look at a person or an event from history. One person on the podcast gives an account of the real history of that person or event, and another person comes up with a crazy bananas batshit alternate version. And at the end, we vote on which becomes the canonical history of the world going forward. And last week, I guess 2 weeks ago, last fortnight, we discussed Ivan the Terrible, and the Mr. Tice's alternate history won, which means Ivan the Terrible was a media magnate who later became a hellworm that possesses host bodies.
Yeah.
And is currently possessing Mr. Rupert Murdoch's body.
Makes sense.
And pretty soon we'll jump to a new host. Who
Who
knows
knows
that
who?
could be.
Yeah.
And also something called goat throating.
Oh, yes, there was a Russian sport called throat goating, which was sort of kind of the impetus for Quidditch.
But with way more goat murder.
More goat murder.
Like almost 20% more goat murder than in typical Quidditch.
Just
Exactly.
a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
Reasonable amount.
Just enough to get you in the seats. The real game is the hunt for the golden snitch.
Yeah.
You thought it was all the murder and blood.
Yeah, that's what the real aficionados look down on the Fairweather, the Fairweather fans are like, they're just watching the goat murder. You should be watching The Seeker.
Yeah, it's the groundlings are going after the goat murder. Well, this episode, we are continuing our discussion of Russian history by talking about the Stroganov family, and I'll be doing the true history.
Yeah.
Matt, you're going to be doing the alternate.
Yes,
We here at the
yes.
Revisionists assumed that you didn't get enough Russian influence in your media and news at this juncture in time, so we thought we'd add a little bit more.
Like, honestly, I was always planning on doing Russian history at this point before the election, and now it's just like,
Yeah.
well, Russian history is the American future, so...
You were only planning that because the KGB incepted you into believing, Russian history.
Chechens. Anyway.
Got to get all this Russian history out before Russian history changes all of a sudden.
Exactly.
Wow, now they were really nice back then now.
Yeah, Russia has invented candy canes.
Yeah.
Santa Claus is in Soviet Russia. Santa Claus is that didn't.
A thief?
I should have considered that construction before I went into it.
I never knew Stalin was a poor servant girl with little mice friends.
Love cheese.
And of course, they sent Trotsky to a nice farm family upstate.
Yes.
An animal farm, if you will.
Got him. Singer of the week.
Yes.
Yep, we're done here.
Air horn. Sorry. What are we doing?
I don't know. I don't even know what the fucking topic is, to be honest with you.
Stroganov family.
The Stroganov family. I didn't do any of the research parts this week, folks.
Good. That makes you a good judge, though. You know.
Exactly. It makes you clean and neutral and impartial, much like Vladimir Putin.
Exactly.
Makes
so.
you pure.
Yeah, I didn't. Look, listen. Improv is hard.
Yeah, it is.
Get off my back,
Oh,
co-host.
shit.
And yes, the Stroganovs were sort of the power behind the throne through a lot of Russian history, especially during the Tsarist and imperialist period. Most Americans, just to get this out of the way, know the Stroganov name from the dish of mushrooms and onions and beef, usually
Yeah.
served over pasta and available at Noodles and Company.
This podcast sponsored by Noodles and Company.
Yeah. Use
Get your-
chopsticks for your beef plate.
Pasta cuisine from around the globe.
Ask yourself, can your food be even more gray? Noodles and Company.
From Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well,
So white.
that's it's a multi-ethnic rainbow of things that could be poured over macaroni.
Yeah,
Basically,
the company is very monochromatic.
Yes. Yes.
The Stroganovs were originally almost peasants in northern Russia around like Novgorod, but they eventually amassed enough wealth through farming salt, basically, which is a very Russian thing to do, I feel like.
Isn't salt like mined or some shit?
Or like extracted or whatever.
Extracted?
Whatever. I don't know. That's the fucking Stroganovs.
They just punched it out of rocks.
Yeah, exactly. They just poured salt in the soil and covered it with water and expected it to grow.
Yes.
And the family first appears in the histories around the late 1300s, but their first notable incident was in 1445. And in telling this, I'm just going to tell a few of like the incidents they were associated with, because giving a whole family history in the course of like 10 minutes, it's going to be impossible and kind of boring. So in 1445, the Muscovite Civil War had been going on for about 10 years, which was a conflict between the Crown Prince of Moscow, Vasily II, and his cousin, also named Vasily for some fucking reason.
That's what the fight was about.
Yeah, well, actually, the fight started, the whole Civil War started when Vasily II's mother, Sophia, totally just insulted his cousin at a party. That started a 10-year civil war.
I like to imagine the insult was, "You put the silly in Vasily, you silly son of a bitch."
It's like, that doesn't even make sense. We're going to war.
Yeah.
That's not a well-constructed joke to the horses.
The 10-year-old battle of 10-year-olds.
Eventually, Vasily II's cousin, Vasily, took the throne. Vasily II retook it and blinded the other Vasily.
I think you have to say like Vasily 2 and Vasily like OG, original flavor.
Yeah.
Extra crispy.
Yeah.
So eventually, Prince Vasily II, would he be the OG since he
No,
was
he's 2.
He's 2. Okay.
He's Crystal Vasily.
Ooh, Crystal Vasily.
Fancy.
Yeah. Vasily 2 Electric Boogaloo. Of course, the new batch. Eventually, through the portal of time, Vasily II was captured by Tatars and blinded again, which earned him the nickname Vasily the Dark, which was points. That's kind of clever.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the Stroganov family came out of nowhere because the Tatars were demanding like an insano ransom to get the prince back. And the Stroganovs paid it basically all by themselves. And they got Vasily II back, who was the great-grandfather of Ivan the Terrible. Of course, famous symbiote host who is now also Rupert Murdoch, kind of. I don't know if they share memories.
I assume the symbiote it's like a pod people situation, and that whatever Rupert Murdoch was before he was Rupert Murdoch is gone.
I assumed it was like a
okay.
Venom or Carnage type situation.
Oh yeah, I was definitely picturing like whatever Rupert Murdoch was before is no longer has been vanquished from.
A journalist?
It's like a Yurch in Animorphs.
What?
I think that's what they were
You
called.
said that like it would clarify things. And it does not, sir.
Were you not
yourself.
children of the 90s? Only 90s kids will get this podcast, my friend.
I really feel like Matt the Dark now.
Booyah, because we also blinded you before the podcast for authenticity.
Yeah, we don't like people to know where we record, so we blind each of our guests.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting
the
out
way-
of here is going to be a real bitch.
This podcast brought to you by the Medellin Drug Cartel.
Yeah.
Not actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
So a couple generations later, when Ivan the Terrible was Tsar and he eliminated the other nobility, the Stroganovs were untouched, and they got a lot of the land that the decimated nobility left behind. Also, I was hoping Willow wouldn't make a noise when she snuck in here, but you might be able to hear the cat on the podcast right now. When Ivan was starting the Oprichnina, which was the land directly controlled by the Tsar, the Stroganovs were forward-thinking enough to volunteer all their land for it. And so even though that fell apart, they were in the Tsar's favor. Plus, they were building up on all that salt money. So at this point, they're basically the most powerful family in Russia, and Ivan the Terrible gives them permission to conquer all of Siberia, because that's how expansion worked at the time. So they enlisted a group of Cossacks led by a man named Yermak Timofeyevich, who I Googled a picture of him, and he looks kind of like a pug dressed in human armor. It's really adorable, kind of. But he's basically like the Christopher Columbus of Siberia.
But cute.
Yeah, a little bit cuter. Kind of like he has a derpier face than Christopher Columbus.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I got it. I would dig up this picture.
Lots of gifs of him eating little baby carrots or some
Yes.
such.
Just like I would love that. I want to make just a gif of him like running across a meadow. Or like
Rolling around in the grass in the hot sun.
yes. Oh my god.
Breathing like James Gandolfini.
So
Classic pug moves.
yeah, that's classic. Any hoozle. They realized that going north to conquer Siberia would be really hard. So they decided to go south and conquer the Khanate of Kazan. And at this point, Ivan the Terrible doesn't want the war to continue because of financial reasons. So he orders them to stop. And the Stroganov family is just like, we're going to ignore that. And so they just take over the funding for the expedition and push Yermak and the Cossacks through into Siberia, just sending like the fucking Expendables in there, basically. Because Yermak, before he became like a mercenary, was a river pirate. And when he conquered all this land that he wasn't supposed to conquer, he was so eager to clear his name that he sent a letter to Ivan the Terrible being like, look, I conquered all this land, not knowing that he had been ordered not to. And so like Ivan is close to ordering the execution of Yermak and the Cossacks and all their allies, when the Stroganov family steps in and is like, oh no, this land is totally a gift for you, Ivan. And he like turns around immediately and he gives the Stroganov family control over all the lands they conquered tax-free for 20 years. So they make a fortune.
Buco Dolores, as they used to say in Russia.
What?
It sounded half Spanish.
That sounded a little French. Also.
I mean, it's Russian, so I don't know what to tell you.
No, it's not, though. You can't just say it's Russian. Also, Ivan the Terrible sends Yermak a suit of armor as a reward, and he is wearing the suit of armor when he drowns in a river. When he's trying to retreat from a battle, the armor basically drags him to the bottom
Classic
of the
beachwear mistake.
river. Yeah, suit of armor.
So
Why don't
hot.
you go with a nice two-piece or something in a tuxedo?
TMZ's going to get that one.
David Spade totally drowned in the Hudson River.
Today on TMZ.
I don't know why is David Spade the first celebrity that comes to mind? It's actually the second time I've had a conversation about David Spade in 24 hours also.
Well,
Not even David Spade has had that many conversations about David Spade in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, because he's been in a sensory deprivation tank.
Brian Flynn's made for Spade. What do you say? Brian Flynn's, that's your spin-off podcast where you discuss the mini works. It's kind of like Denzel
David
Washington.
Spade's VH1 dating show.
Yeah. It's like that Denzel Washington is the greatest actor of all time, period podcast, but nope, you're talking about David, Mr. David B. Spade.
Hey, everybody, we're all going to get Spade. And which has a very different context when you're a cat.
Willow has left the room.
Spay and neuter people. Anyway, the Stroganovs used this wealth to basically finance all the Tsar's wars for centuries. They were almost like the sole financiers of wars with Sweden and Finland, and like the conflicts with Lithuania and Poland. They became government officials. They built palaces. They became huge patrons of art, which is sort of what they're most known for now. There's an entire school of like Russian icon painting named after them. They built hospitals, churches, and schools, but they were also like entrenched nobility. Like one of the members of the family, Sergei Grigorievich Stroganov, whatever. He was a government official.
That is officially, I think,
yeah.
going to be a common refrain on this podcast for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Mogrovich, whatever. Fuck it. Maggie. It's Maggie now.
Sean. His name's Sean Gregg. He was a government official under the reign of Tsar Alexander II, and he strenuously opposed Alexander II's drive to emancipate the serfs. And after Alexander II was assassinated, he convinced Alexander III to drop his father's plans for a new constitution and republic, basically, which is one of the things that sort of set the stage for the revolutions in 1905 and 1917. And like during this time, the family was shrinking in size, but not wealth, to the point where there was only one descendant left, who was a woman and therefore couldn't inherit. So she married someone from the Sheherbatov family, and they became the Sheherbatov Stroganov, which is the most Russian name you could possibly have.
Jesus.
During the revolution of 1917, they fled into exile with the nationalist white forces. Not the white nationalist forces. I mean, some of them actually were, because some of them supported the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah.
But the people who fought against the Bolsheviks. There's a branch of the family in New York, which is where the Stroganov Foundation is run from.
So weird.
Yeah, and that's basically it. They've been in New York since 1917. I don't know if they've returned to Russia since the fall of communism, but if you're listening, hi.
Hey, Slava.
That's one of the highlights of the story of the Stroganov family. That I got through almost all of it without making a masturbation joke.
Yeah.
It's like stroking off, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
it's right there, dude. It's just dangling.
That's usually how it begins.
Oh shit! Yeah. See, like I read the Wikipedia page, that in-depth page, and it said that the last member died in 1923 in the family.
Well, I went to their like official foundation website. Which I don't mean to make it sound more legitimate.
No, I'm sure
like
that it is.
Their official foundation website.
Yeah.
That looks like it was built on GeoCities, kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
It looks like a Zanga page almost.
yeah. The URL was www.spacejam.com, I think.
/Stroganoff.
Kazammovie.net.
Yeah, it's weird how that Space Jam website has like trailer, cast, Stroganoff family.
There's just a picture of them standing with like Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny.
Not smiling.
Just like posing. I'm glad I did a pose on an audio podcast.
It looked really cool for everybody out there.
Unfortunately, we didn't have time to go into how the Stroganoff family defeated the Monstars.
Well, Matt, if you're ready.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So, I kind of just went through and did like a timeline that matched the Wikipedia page So we'll see how that goes. It's so in the late 15th century, Fyodor Stroganov, he relocated from Russia's subarctic north because he was sick of child support payments, and he had a shitload of kids. Man, that guy was always fucking.
Of course, that's the only reason to leave the subarctic north of Russia.
Yeah, he was comfy. So
He's a little husky.
Yeah.
He could deal with it.
So he took whichever kid was closest when his wife had his back turned, and he just ran. And his son, so he took his son, Anarchy Stroganov, which is named after the ancient fable Star Wars.
Yeah. I saw that name too. That jumped out at me.
Had to, dude. And they started a new business, and that business was they made those Russian dolls that just get smaller and smaller inside of each other.
Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah, Russian nesting dolls.
Petrushkas.
That was their cash cow. And
inside the last one was a little bit of salt.
It had just been discovered at the time.
It was just from the sweat of making. It was the salt from the sweat. And then, so in 1558, Ivan the Terrible was so impressed with the wooden baby machines, as he called them, that he gave Anarchy and his successors large estates to fill with the wooden families.
Please tell me he gave them one large estate and then a smaller estate and then a slightly smaller estate.
He's like, put these inside of each other.
It's like a weird Marwin Call situation.
He was just enamored. He couldn't figure out that the dolls weren't real.
It's like Synecdoche, New York.
Ryan with the deep cuts from like the Prestige films from the late 2000s.
It's like Porky's.
Breaks the mold a little bit, but
sorry.
okay.
Never seen Porky's.
So then in 1566, Ivan helped them seize land from the locals by conquest, which they would build towns with farming, hunting, saltworks, mining, fortresses, etc., for the Russian nesting dolls to live in and have their own little towns.
Sure.
And naturally, the townspeople were pissed, and they kept trying to uprise, and lots of blood was shed, but the Stroganovs kept paying for military people just to kill those people off so that their Russian nesting dolls could have their town. From there, they would expand their businesses into other things, such as tracksuits, oversized Russian hats, which were actually a mistake. They accidentally made them too big, and then everybody thought it was cool. And bear fighting lessons.
It's like you went on a Russian Tumblr page and just like made by someone in New Jersey.
Yeah. They just got into the killer Russian stereotype business, and we're just making a killing, dude.
What a business. So much money to be made in that.
So then when they were making their killing, they had more money than they knew what to do with. So they started financing all of Russia's wars in the 1600s so that they could use the dead bodies to try to make Russian nesting humans.
Oh, nice.
God. It's like an internal human centipede.
That also sounds very Russian to me.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not the first time.
I feel like the signs they were producing that said, "Do not smile, we're not doing the trick," so they had to make life a little worse for everyone.
So it didn't work, and in an ironic twist of events, they themselves looked like the monsters.
Just for putting corpses inside other larger corpses.
The irony. The pure irony.
They
What
are not
next?
the monsters.
Is Ed Gein a monster?
Yes. Oh. And then in the 1700s, the family, they were like, okay, we got a little off track there. Let's get back to the stereotype business. We're just not people.
God damn it. I just pictured you like hitting on that line and sitting in your apartment at like 11:30 at night.
Just so high, laughing way too hard.
And then you're trying to write it, but you realize you're writing with a hot pocket instead of a pen.
I could read the grease stains.
I've read your memoirs, is what I'm saying.
Yes. That's also how my tombstone is going to be written, in hot pockets.
Of course, pepperoni and cheese.
Yeah. People get too close and they get pimples.
Because that's what happens. People just get too close.
Osmosis. It gives you
Greasy
pimples.
food.
Yes.
You walk into the Hot Pocket aisle in a grocery store, clear skinned. That's why it exits directly into the Clearasil aisle.
Yes. Good on them. Good on them. So then in the 17 and 1800s, the family really got down to business with their Russian stereotypes, and they started making vodka and spy glasses and pet bears, underground fighting, guns, just cool Russian shit.
Military coups.
Yeah. And by the late 1800s...
Expendable populace.
Yeah.
For kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a board game, of course. Expendable populace. It's the Russian counterpart to Monopoly.
It's a Russian counterpart to life. Where by the end, if your car is full of people, you lose.
You don't have any more money.
You could have used those people as a meat shield against the Germans.
Made Russian nesting humans.
And of course, their game Bread.
Yes.
Where there's no dice.
So
The object of the game is just to get some bread.
All the pieces just wait in line across the board.
Your family will die if you do not get bread. Now get the bread. Those are rules. Go.
but they're playing with real bread, and they're actually starving, but they're not allowed to eat the pieces.
I accuse Professor Plum. I have no evidence for this. We do not need to check the cards.
Yes.
To the gulag.
So by the late 1800s, the Stroganovs had single-handedly turned Russia into a super cool fuck fest. Because everyone just had so much cool shit, dude. They just wanted to fuck, like, all the time.
That's capitalism.
Yep. You get vodka and Russian nesting dolls in the same room, and it is an orgy.
Yeah, let's do this, dude. Take off your jacket and let's do this.
Take off that furry hat. No, wait,
And that
put the furry hat
tracksuit.
back on.
Yes. So to show their thanks for all the cool shit over the past 300 years, the Russian government nationalized the Stroganov family property, including all their nesting doll cities. They also gave each member of the family the highest possible award, which were the biggest Russian hats that have ever been made. Like, obscenely huge. And they wore them proudly and with sore necks. And then the last Stroganov family member died in the Stroganov Palace in 1923 while cooking. He tripped on a Russian nesting doll, hit his head on a spice rack, knocking a much larger nesting doll onto his head, causing him to have a stroke on the stove. His fall caused a container of sour cream to spill onto the beef he was cooking. The dish would later be named beef stroganoff.
Of course, all dishes are named after the person who died cooking them.
Yeah, every meal you love came from a violent death.
Of course, Jonathan Pizza, who fell into a wood fire oven.
Yeah. Followed shortly by his assistant, Pepperoni.
Yes.
And of course, olive oil, who Popeye failed to save.
Yes.
Matt, thank you.
No problem.
Zach, I believe you're judging this episode.
I am. And I think the Stroganov family history reel is one of those very long, sort of strange histories that are hard to follow and keep self-contained because there's so many ins and outs and there's just pockets of activity. And those are fine if you're a fucking boring academic who has all the time to research all that bullshit. But I'm not. So I'm going to go with the alternate in this particular
Hell yeah.
this particular episode.
I agree.
Cool.
Well, listeners, before we go, we have officially launched our Patreon campaign, which you can find at patreon.com/therevisionists. And there you can get the Revisionist t-shirt designed by Jeff Tice that we talked about last episode, which is fucking awesome. And again, thank you to him for doing it. You can also get that if you just want to message me personally. But you can also get that in Denver at Crema Coffee House. So check that out. And there's also other reward tiers on the Patreon. Hopefully, if you are not good with money, you'll give some of that to us. You can always go to our website, revisionistpodcast.com, to leave us a comment, ask us a question, see news and updates. You can also find that on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And as always, we ask, if you have time, please review the podcast on iTunes, because that's super helpful to us.
It improves visibility greatly to have more positive, hopefully, reviews on iTunes.
Yes. Yeah. I haven't checked in a while, but they have been like overwhelmingly positive, which is
there's one or two bad ones in there.
Yeah, still, but like the vast majority.
Sure.
And thank you to everyone who has done that. Even the one or two bad people, not bad people, bad reviews.
No, they're definitely bad people.
Yeah, no, they're probably
probably Russians hacking.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely racist.
Yeah, it's Cozy Bear.
That was their username on iTunes. Definitely a racist. And definitely a racist 69 was the other one.
Yeah, which is way hotter. Hot racist.
Oh, God. Before we go, Matt, you're going to be on the wonderful, wonderful Lucha Libre and Laughs coming up January 20th. If you want to describe that show real quick.
Yeah, it's like it's a wrestling and stand-up comedy show. The wrestling with the announcers that are also stand-up comics are fucking hilarious and great, and I'm lucky to do a set there. It'll be at the Oriental Theater.
Mm-hmm. And you're just all over town, and you're so funny and so worth seeing. If you can find a show where Matt is performing, please do that, listeners.
Thanks.
Zach, Stage of Fools
continues for at least another 8 or 9 weeks, probably. We're pretty early in the season, so.
What are the prospects for the Royals getting renewed for a 4th season?
Well, we do no research over at the Royals, so I do not know what the ratings look like. I do not know where they are in that process, if anywhere.
They made it 3 seasons somehow.
They did. So,
but that's a hilarious podcast with friend of the show, former guest Shannon Camp.
Correct.
As for me, I will be performing at Jagged Mountain Brewery in Denver, Colorado, December 28th. So a few days after this is released. That show is at 7:30. I'll be featuring for Andy Sell, and Jason Keys will be there. It'll be a really fucking great show, so come check that out. Also, I never plug my Twitter, so I'll do that. You can follow me on Twitter at apparentlybrian, all one word. Before we go, happy holidays.
Yeah, enjoy whatever holidays or if you don't celebrate any holidays, just getting drunk without any reason to do so.
I hope you make it through.
Yeah. This is also our last episode of 2016.
What a year.
Yep.
And it's not dead yet.
We have a montage.
Everyone else is.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like Zsa Gabor died a few days ago, and I feel like 2016 as a year is just like running out of good celebrities to kill, basically.
Next is David Spade, dude.
Oh, do not say that. Brian convulsed a little bit.
I just went to check Twitter to make sure David Spade was still alive.
Google David Spade death hoax, please.
Oddly enough, he just tweeted, "Still alive, bitches."
2-3 followers.
Yes.
All of them Brian's 3 Twitter accounts. Apparently Brian, and definitely not a racist, and definitely not a racist 69.
And of course, definitely not a racist 420.
Yes. Amazing.
But I think that'll do it for this episode. For everyone here at The Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I am Zach Powers.
Have a good time.
Have a good time.